Welcome, this is the Advocates Effect. My name is Brandy.
And my name is James.
We resume with part 2 on our feature series discussing the impact of the US Supreme Court's 2010 ruling in Citizens United case. James, can you briefly explain the holding?
Justice Kennedy, who authored the court's opinion, considers political spending as a form of protected speech under the First Amendment. The court ruled that the government may not keep corporations or unions from spending money to support or denounce individual candidates in elections.
So as I understand this decision, while corporations or unions cannot give money directly to campaigns, they may seek to persuade the voting public through other means.
That is exactly right. Corporations can influence by means that include advertising, especially where these ads are not broadcast.
And as I understand, Justice Stevens dissented, and was joined by Justices Ginsburg, Breyer, and Sotomayor. Summaries briefly the impact that we can already attribute to this ruling.
First off, front groups, largely on the conservative right, set up shop by this past spring, adding to the financial firepower already assembled by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and others. The nearly $300 million in traceable independent, non-party spending set a new record for a midterm election. Despite opinion polls showing overwhelming opposition to the decision, the Mitch McConnell-led Republicans in the U.S. Senate blocked the Disclose Act from passage, and reaped the benefits of large amounts of secret money in the election campaign.
Nearly 10 months since the Supreme Court drastically expanded the ability of corporations to influence the political process, the public is still greatly troubled by the court's ruling in Citizens United. The majority Americans do not buy the absurd arguments of congressional Republicans that Citizens United was as significant a step forward such as was the court's landmark decision in Brown v. Board of Education. Most people believe that corporations should not be allowed to spend unlimited sums from their general treasuries to fund political efforts.
Former Supreme Court Justices John Paul Stevens and Sandra Day O'Connor recently appeared to come to a similar conclusion about the majority decision reached by their former colleagues in Citizens United versus Federal Elections Committee earlier this year. That it was a mistake.
Yes, in an interview between the two in Newsweek, Stevens, who stood on the dissenting side of Citizens United, characterized the final decision in the case as a failure that he would like to see readdressed.
In fact, speaking to former Justice O'Connor, he said, "I think they made a serious mistake in the Citizens United campaign finance case, in which they overruled a portion of an opinion that you and I jointly authored on the McCain-Feingold campaign finance law. And I think you might share my view."
Justice O'Connor retired before the Citizens United ruling. However, she has been quoted as saying, "It is a source of concern today, the extent of campaign contributions, and whether corporations and unions must be held to the same standard as an individual. These are tough issues for the nation and the court."
As we have previously said, this isn't a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. In fact, published recent analysis of the effects of Citizens United found that $132.5 million, about 15% of all federal political spending in the recent election cycle, was channeled by anonymous groups or unlimited donations authorized by the Supreme Court's ruling.
In fact, it was the Wall Street Journal that stated independent groups that did not disclose the identity of their donors spent $132.5 million to influence elections nationwide.
That accounts for about a third of all spending by outside groups in the 2010 election cycle. As most understand, and as we believe, educating the public is key on this issue. We want to ensure that nothing will stand in the way of a fundamental reform effort.
That's right, we support the work of Fix Congress First, and advocate that we work to write these reforms into the founding document of our nation, the Constitution itself. Passing the Fair Elections Now Act is an essential first step toward restoring trust in our democracy.
We hope you will subscribe to the Advocates Effect and support the important educational efforts of Fix Congress First as we work together to keep you abreast of the legislative process and endeavor to bring you a greater understanding of the importance to our democracy and the future of our nation.